Don't forget that we're often close to traffic lanes. We also work with sharp and heavy parts, so we have to ensure our safety with appropriate PPE. When you approach a hydrant, the first thing to do is to identify the make and model. Here, we have a Concorde Premier D67M, manufactured in 2008. We need the specific parts for this model to be able to work on the hydrant. Usually, we have repair kits with everything needed to recondition a hydrant. Before we start working on our hydrant, make sure the isolation valve is closed. Otherwise, there are health and safety risks. To know the diameter of the pipe, it's usually 3 turns for the equivalent of an inch in diameter. Hydrants are usually fed by 150 millimeter pipe or 6 inches. So I should have 18 turns to close the isolation valve. Once it is closed, we open the hose cap and the hydrant to verify that the hydrant is really isolated from the network. If no water leaks out, this means that the isolation valve is closed and the dismantling work can begin. It's a bit tough to unscrew. That indicates to me it will need replacement and lubrication. Next, we take out the reflectoscope. It's a device used to look inside the hydrant to see if there's any obstructions. It could be rocks or bits of wood. In this case, I'll need Allen sockets to undo the bonnet. It's always important to have a container for your parts. Anything available to you will work just fine. Now, we're going to continue to open the hydrant. When you open it, the mechanism goes down. And then you'll see that it comes up, out by itself, no force required. This is the bonnet. I'll inspect the operating nut for cracks due to frost or anything else unusual. This one is still in good condition, so we can keep going and separate those 2 parts like this. To remove the operating nut retaining gland, we'll hit it on the side until the sound changes, which means it's coming off. And now you can see inside of the fire hydrant. It's time to unscrew the entire mechanism. Here's a custom-made tool for unscrewing it. There is a squared connector which slips over the stem. In hydrants, most of the time, you unscrew counterclockwise and screw clockwise. When you can feel that it's easy to turn, it's completely unscrewed. You can then remove the tool. For the task of removing the entire operating stem and mechanism, try to work in teams of 2s or 3s. But if you are alone, you can use a pipe wrench on the stem to hold it in place and take breaks. You can see the whole stem here, the threaded part, the round part, the square part to which our tool will grab, the brake coupling, and the stem guide. We continue with the stem leading down to our valve. Our repair kit will enable us to replace the main valve rubber and various other gaskets. We make sure to clean up the parts well. First of all, we're going to remove our O-rings. We'll also undo the end of the stem to be able to replace the main valve rubber. Here, I have the valve carrier. We've got to get it unstuck. And there you have it. We can add a little touch of food-grade grease to our new valve rubber and put it all back together. Make sure that the tapered side is facing the right way to sit on the hydrant seat. The other way around, it wouldn't seal our fire hydrant. There are 2 different sizes of O-rings on the main valve seat. Make sure you put them in the right place.
joint torique qui est trop grand, j'ai beaucoup trop de jeu. Mon joint torique est trop grand, là, vous voyez, il est bien en place. Mon joint torique plus petit, super. Mise en garde ici.
When working with screw threads, like on the bonnet of the hydrant, it's very sharp, so make sure you wear gloves. We're now ready to put the mechanism back in place. We'll have to take the hydrant from the end so that it can be lowered back into place. And when we're going to make sure, we start by turning in the opposite way, so unscrewing a few turns before to screw clockwise, because we want to make sure that we are not crossed thread.
On a vu tantôt qu'on a eu beaucoup de difficultés à dévisser la borne d'incendie. C'est pas normal. Les joints toriques servent à faire l'étanchéité.
And that's it. No need to put more pressure than this. The O-rings are the seal to the mechanism. We still have a few pieces left in our puzzle. We have 2 O-rings here on the outside of the operating nut. And we also have 2 other O-rings inside the operating nut. I still have some gaskets to put in. After that, I'll have used every part in the maintenance kit. Now all we have to do is a little cleaning and a little greasing on the bonnet. I can remove the hose cap lining and replace it.
J'ai remplacé mon kit au complet. Il me reste la garniture du chapeau qu'on va mettre bientôt. Pour le nettoyage maintenant.
To clean up this part, we're going to use a rag. Sometimes we need a brush to ensure a good seal. After that, we'll still have to clean up the retaining gland section. And we're ready to reassemble using some grease to lubricate. Earlier, our difficulty in opening the fire hydrant, even if there is no pressure, was mainly because it lacked lubricant. I've lubricated my O-rings here and also the upper part with the small Teflon washer. Now that the retainer gland is in place, the bonnet is in place, the holes are properly aligned, so all that's left for me to do is to close it completely. Never use a power tool to finish tightening. Always work with hand tools. Again, it doesn't have to be super tight because our gaskets are there to ensure a watertight seal. I can now check to see if everything is working properly. I can reopen the isolation valve. You can get there with just a few turns. I have no sign of water entering my fire hydrant, so that means my work is done. We can now grease the threads of the hose caps and tighten them by hand. And then we complete it with a quarter turn with a tool. It's now watertight and no one can manually unscrew the hose caps. So that's it for the hydrant maintenance. Be sure to clean your work area and log the work you did in the maintenance log.